Welcome back, WNST. Towson Bolton on to my program to upstage me in the fashion that I'm about to be upstaged in. This guy has appeared here on numerous occasions talking hockey, football, racetrack. He is the voice of Canterbury Park in Minnesota, as well as K-Fan 100.3, and the longtime voice of the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm visiting the Twin Cities. This guy and I are having lunch at some point this weekend. It's going to be good fun with the great Paul Allen. You can follow him out on Twitter at PA on the mic. Paul, you do know that it is very rare that I invite someone on that's better than I am at doing what I do to just sort of take over my show. So I just want you to take over the show right now, as you know how to do so well.
Well, I'm very happy that you have forgiven me from what I did to your Capitals. I believe it was last year, because I know
Whammy.
You love the Washington Capitals. Bruce Boudreau, the coach of the Wild here, obviously used to coach the Caps, and I know you know Bruce well.
Gabby's my man. You know, Gabby was the coach of the Manchester Monarchs in Manchester, New Hampshire, the night I met my wife at a Manchester Monarchs game, and we actually said hello to Bruce after the game. It was some sort of hockey thing. So Bruce Boudreau was involved in the night that I met my wife in Manchester, New Hampshire. So have that, PA. How about that?
Well, there actually was a time within the last couple of years where I thought your Alexander Ovechkin-led Capitals could not lose the Stanley Cup. And when I said it, you were like, come on, you can't say that. I mean, you're going to put the ultimate whammy on them, and turns out I did. They didn't come through with the payoff for old Nestor.
Do you think they're never going to win, or are you now moving toward that camp? I mean, there were many that thought the Cubs would never win. There were many that thought the Red Sox would never win. There were many who thought Cleveland would never win as a community. I don't think the Nationals are ever going to win, by the way, PA, because I don't like them. But from the Caps, I'm not thinking I'm going to die without a Stanley Cup if I live another 10 or 15 years. I mean, I feel like I don't know if it's going to happen the next year or two. I don't know if Ovechkin's going to be a part of it, but I'm not going with any sort of the curse of Dale Hunter or anything like that. I'm not going to do that.
Well, you have to remember that I'm voice of the Minnesota Vikings, so never is not in the lexicon. This is a four-time Super Bowl loser, a team that in 2009 had a great chance to win the Super Bowl, lost a highly charged, extremely emotional NFC title game at New Orleans. And subsequently, we haven't been to the playoffs many times since 2009. So you ain't gonna get me to play the never card too frequently.
Yeah, I mean, championships are fun, right? I mean, when you win them, we've had two here with the Ravens. We're pining from '83. Minnesota, like the Twins, the Homer Hanky. Maybe I mean, I don't, I know the Vikings, Timberwolves. Well, Stars, and then yeah, it's been a little bit, right? I mean, I don't think of Minnesota as this star-crossed place that's never won, though, right? Like, you guys, you're too humble to brag on being, like, losers, right?
No, man, it might be me. I mean, seriously, when I was growing up in Oxon Hill, Maryland, my mom used to take me to Baltimore Orioles games. I remember the World Series against the We Are Family Pirates. They lost that. I do believe I went to Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, and actually saw Elvin Hayes, Wes Unseld, and Kevin Greavy beat the Seattle Supersonics with Jack Sikma. Honestly, I think that's the last championship that I've taken in, age 13, 1979, Capitol Center.
He is, maybe the title of Beck's song loser. Paul Allen joining us here. He's PA on the mic. He's the longtime voice of the Vikings and our great pal out in the Twin Cities. You give me a little primer on the Vikings, right? I mean, look, we just saw the Bears. We're seeing you guys this week. We're going to see the Lions. Now we're going to see the Packers on the road at the end of the year without Aaron Rodgers. That's a whole different deal, as they like to say. And you guys are coming off a very emotionally charged win, rival team, injury to collarbone, and now moves sort of kind of into the catbird seat to be the quote-unquote favorite. But when I look at the Vikings, dude, we talk about resiliency here with the Ravens not having Yanda, not having Williams, not having Urban, injuries. We all get our feelings hurt. Boy, the Vikings are on their third quarterback, and Dalvin Cook's down, and are still doing it. I mean, there's something about the resiliency of the Vikings this year, I think.
Well, the Minnesota Vikings defense is legitimately good, and it's been incredibly good at home. And it's number one in the NFL on third down defense. It's really, really stingy inside the red zone. And for the most part, the injuries have taken place offensively. with the Aaron Rodgers situation where Anthony Barr fell on him and he broke his collarbone and he's probably out for the season. It was a very unfortunate situation to maybe the best overall player in the NFL. But this is a Minnesota Vikings team that in 2016, Nestor, we had 12 different offensive line combinations, 5 left tackles. We lost Teddy Bridgewater for the season into the season. We lost Adrian Peterson for a majority of the season in week number 2. And already this year, we've lost Sam Bradford, potential Rookie of the Year, Dalvin Cook, and played the Packers game without Maryland native Stephon Diggs. So, I mean, we've had major injury situations here. Resiliency is kind of the trademark of the head coach, Mike Zimmer. But the general manager, Rick Spielman, has done a really good job fortifying the roster. And in the offseason, when we needed a backup quarterback, there were many from which to choose, and he opted for Case Keenum. And he made a really, really good decision. Case, in sneaky fashion, has been really good.
Duke came out of a tree and kicked our ass 3 years ago in Houston, PA. We are, Case Keenum's a 4-letter word here in Baltimore for what happened a few years ago, and he really has been something. I mean, came into the game last Monday night. I got a chance to watch that game, previewing the Bears and the Vikings, and, looked like it would have won by 3 touchdowns had he been in the whole time, and clearly Bradford's not right, and lo and behold, here comes Teddy Bridgewater. I remember him, don't you?
Yeah, Bridgewater, he'll start practicing with the team this week, and he's eligible to start playing games in 3 weeks. So it's not a bad situation. It's a precarious situation. Bradford's left knee, it's kind of a clandestine situation where in the practices up to that Monday Night Football game against the Bears, Sam looked fantastic, man. I watch practice every single day, and when he was planting on that left knee, he looked terrific. And then we get to the game on Monday night, and he's just awful. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So Keenum comes in a very awkward situation at the end of the first half and goes 17 of 21. And so now the next game, we got Green Bay. Green Bay's defense is not great, and it also was injury ravaged. And Keenum made some really good plays. And he also runs, which Sam doesn't do. Now, the situation down the road with Bridgewater is a strength in that, Vikings beat the Ravens. We go to London next week. Then we play Cleveland. Let's say we win that game. Then we get a bye. We could be 6-2 out of the bye with 3 consecutive on the road: Washington, Atlanta, and we go to Charlotte. And if the Vikings continue to win with Case, we won a division with Teddy 2 years ago, man. But I just can't see any way they would replace Case Keenum.
I want to play the Cleveland Browns in London. Can we do that? We played Jacksonville. It didn't go well a couple weeks ago.
Everybody wants to play the Cleveland Browns. I mean, you break down the metrics on their last 22 games. It's just ridiculous. I can't believe they don't win more games. It's unbelievable.
It's really hard to be that bad, isn't it? I mean, it's a special kind of odor, isn't it?
Well, with the Ravens beat Cleveland, right?
Yes, thankfully, yes. Everybody's beating Cleveland. That's correct. We're going to beat them twice, I think. We get another go in December. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do think we'll beat them again. Yes.
Yeah, this is an interesting week for the Vikings with the game on Sunday. They're 5-point favorites. They just beat Green Bay after knocking Aaron Rodgers out of the game. Mike Wallace is going to come back here and he's going to be full of fire because I liked Mike when he was here, but I never got the feeling that Mike felt he was utilized the right way. And despite some of these bad box scores, we all know Joe Flacco can loft up a good one if he's protected nicely. Now, they're going to be going right into the teeth of a secondary that is getting good play-by-play. Cornerback Xavier Rhodes is top 3, maybe 5 in the NFL. Third-year corner Trey Waynes just blanketed Jordy Nelson the entire game and kind of put Jordy on a nondescript game. Terrence Newman is 39 years of age, 15th year from Kansas State. He just played his 211th game, and it looks like he's in his 3rd year. He's still super fast. And second-year corner Mackenzie Alexander starting to make good plays, too. Plus, the safety, Harrison Smith, has 3 picks. So it's going to be a really, really intriguing game this weekend, specifically if Baltimore wants to throw a lot.
This is Zimmer's game, right? Building the defense through. I mean, you've patchworked the quarterback. You've patchworked the offense. Peterson out, Cook out. I mean, special guys on the offensive side. But Zimmer really, this is where he earns his stripes in putting together a defense, and certainly one that injured the star quarterback in the league last week.
Yeah, this defense has been good since Mike got here. It was embarrassing in 2013, with all due respect. Mike got here in 2014. It went from bad to pretty good. And then in 15, 16, and now 17, it's upper echelon. And, with some of these high-end players like Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, Linval Joseph, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, these guys have been in this defense now 2, 3, and 4 years. So they know exactly what to do and when to do it. And it's very unpredictable. Mike, if there is a better defensive coach in the NFL who is able to do the same thing yet disguise it differently on a week-to-week basis, then I got to see who it is.
One of my all-time favorites, he is Paul Allen. He is PA on the mic out on Twitter and at Canterbury Park. 23 years now, calling the races. I've called one race in my life, Paul. I think I told you. I'm going to stick to my day job of doing sports radio. I'm just not cut out for that. Also, the play-by-play voice, a longtime voice of the Minnesota Vikings, now 2 decades at KFan out in the Twin Cities. The Super Bowl being played there. I'm going to have an opportunity to spend 9 glorious, I'm sure, wintry nights out in the Twin Cities into January and early February. The opening with Green Bay now and the fact that the Eagles smell good this week and the Rams are okay, I don't think there's any thought at all that you guys can't have that in your mind's eye to be that team that's hosting that and playing in that. I'm sure you guys talk about it, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but not a lot of teams get that opportunity to sort of have the stars align where that could happen. Certainly the Vikings need to be in that conversation right now, and that's got to be like twice as exciting, right?
Nestor, we've had a really strange season. After week 1, that Monday Night Football game against New Orleans, we looked so good, man. I mean, it was like the sky's the limit. Then we go to Pittsburgh and we lose. Then we lose Bradford. Then we kill Tampa. Then we outplay Detroit, but we fumble it 3 times. We drop 3 interceptions, and we lose a game we should have won. And then we got the Bears game, and that's tightly contested against a rookie quarterback you recently saw. And Case comes in, and we win that game.
It worked out better with you and the Bears than it did with us, but we'll get to that in a minute.
And then we basically killed Green Bay. So, I mean, it's just been a wide range of emotions this year. The Dalvin Cook injury absolutely sucks. I mean, he not only was he good for us during the first 2.5 games to 3 games, but he was getting better play-by-play. And his pass protection was really good. His running skills were elusive. And he was getting really good catching the ball and turning it up and getting yards. And he had a legitimate chance to become Offensive Rookie of the Year. So they've worked around that well the last 2 games. His replacement, Jerick McKinnon, had a couple of touchdowns against Green Bay, and he had a 58-yard touchdown run against Chicago. So that is working well. But when it comes to the range of emotions with this season, I mean, after the Lions lost, it felt like 8-8, 9-7, maybe 10-6. After the Green Bay loss, I'm texting the chief operating officer to make sure I can keep my booth during the Super Bowl. It's just it's the National Football League range of emotions that go up and down. And cliche as it is, Ravens come to town this weekend. Can't sleep on that team. Then you got to go to London, so you're traveling. You got to deal with that, and you just got to keep winning games, man. I believe in Philadelphia more than you. Philadelphia's offensive and defensive lines are incredibly physical. Carson Wentz is a Bismarck, North Dakota native. We've been familiar with him for quite some time. He played at North Dakota State University. He's a fantastic quarterback, and I love their coach too. I think Doug Peterson does a really good job. He's a very tough guy, and it comes through with his team. So, these Falcons got to figure out what's going on, man. I mean, it's a bad look to lose at home to Miami and Buffalo, but I think they'll eventually figure some things out. Seattle is still very tough, especially if you have to play there. So who knows?
Paul, I talked about the resiliency. I mean, you're around this team all the time. You've been around for years. You've been through good years, bad years, quarterbacks, going back 2 decades now. This whole thing of Bridgewater's the guy was blossoming, heinous, hideous injury. You find another guy in Bradford, sort of salvage the season, have a chance. I had a real chance to make some noise last year in the playoffs, and then this thing goes down early this year with Case Keenum. It really is a tribute to the organization, and I think to the whole system and to the offense that I don't want to say you haven't missed a beat, because I don't know how good it would have been had Bridgewater never been injured in that way that he was 15 months ago or 14 months ago, whatever it was. But not a lot of of teams can go through this and remain relevant and remain winning. I mean, we saw Garoppolo run the Patriots around for a couple of weeks last year, and we're kind of marveled by that. But I would think at this point you must believe that the Packers aren't going to be able to respond the way the Vikings have responded, right?
Couple of things here. One, the resiliency, I think, has a lot to do with the makeup of the individuals on the team. This team does not have a lot of front runners. And Mike Zimmer, he's very emotional, but he also preaches the even-keeled approach weekly. And when the team's going extremely well, they don't have, the defense doesn't act like it's the 85 Bears or 2000 Ravens. And when things go poorly, the team bounces back pretty well. Secondly, the offensive line was one of the worst in the NFL last year, and the team had no running game. They drafted Dalvin Cook. That worked, but now he's gone. You look at the offensive line, they paid a lot of money for Riley Reif to get him in free agency from Detroit, and he's been a godsend at left tackle. Mike Remmers had his problems at right tackle when playing for Carolina, specifically opposite Von Miller in the Super Bowl. I don't think he gave up a pressure in the Packers game, and he's been really good. We got this rookie center from Ohio State, Pat Elflein, who makes good play after play every single game. And the most importantly, the offensive line mirrors the head coach's attitude. It's tough. And it's a very tough, scrappy line. And it's paving the way for a team that, until yesterday, and, courtesy of a tip pass, hadn't thrown an interception all year. We went 185 consecutive attempts this year, and at the end of the final game last year without a pick. So it's been a very smart football team this year, one that currently is in first place.
Hey, I love asking this question, and so this is one of my new school 10 questions I ask every week. Who's the best player on the Vikings? I would say it's Xavier Rhodes from the outside, but I don't watch the team play, week after week. Who's their best player? That's a tough one, right? It's tough when you got a number of. Well, make a case for the top three. Then give me an argument to be made at a Twin Cities bar about who is their best player. Because maybe if I ask five guys like you this week, I might get five different answers on this team, right?
I think Xavier definitely would need to be in that top three. Might be number one. He legitimately is a shutdown corner. When we beat the Bears on Monday Night Football, their offensive plan was to not target him one time. I mean, I was hoping he brought his favorite magazine so he had something to do. He just was not targeted the entire game. And in the Packers game, he gave up a touchdown to Devontae Adams, but overall did a good job against him. Harrison Smith, safety, needs to be in that mix. Everson Griffin has 7 sacks from the right defensive end spot. But you know what? In underrated fashion, maybe right at the top of that list, is defensive tackle Linval Joseph. He is the best 4-3 nose tackle in the NFL, and he has 2 guys on him every single play. And because of Linval Joseph and what he does, he affords the defensive ends the opportunity to rush as well as they do, and the middle linebacker Eric Kendricks to lead the team in tackles for what will be a 3rd consecutive year. And Eric makes a lot of plays. So, I think people would focus on Xavier, Harrison, and Everson, but I can make a strong case for Linval Joseph, man. I ain't kidding you.
Paul Allen is here to talk about the Minnesota Vikings and kick me in the groin about the Washington Capitals. You're a little bit of a Capital fan, right? I mean, you still carry that with you, your Oxon Hill roots, or no? You let that go with Rod Langway?
In 1979, I believe it was, I was at Capitol Center at age 13 for Jim Craig's first game in the United States after the Miracle on Ice. Okay. 79 or 80. I think it was 80.
All right, it had to been 80.
Yeah, and he played for the Atlanta Flames.
Oh, the Flames, that's right.
I go back to that. I go back to Gordie Howe. I go back to Guy Sharon, Dennis Marouk, Bengt Gustafsson. So, yeah, I'm a lifetime Capitals fan. I mean, I love On the Wild now. My radio station carries the Wild. I've become good friends with Gabby, as you would say, Bruce Boudreau, and some players on that team. The Capitals would be my second favorite team behind the Wild.
And you are the Canterbury Park track announcer. You love you some ponies, don't you? I was talking to some great friends here this week about the Preakness and the future and the Triple Crown and Maryland Jockey Club and gambling and racing and all that stuff. And, you just lace it up, go out there. They put 12 horses down. You learn silks, you learn jockeys, you learn the cadence and down the stretch. And dude, I have no ability to do that, man. I always say to people, I think I could learn to play the guitar. I don't think I could ever learn to play the piano, just the way my mind works. I think maybe I could call baseball play-by-play, maybe, but I don't think I would ever be really good at it. But I could never be a horse track announcer. No way, no how.
No,
I could be a game show host. I could do that, I think.
Nestor, you're very talented. If you spent time in the booth with me calling 5 races, you could be a racetrack announcer at any track in the country, because
I don't think I have the memory and the mnemonics to remember the green silk and the jockey's name.
I didn't either, man. I didn't either. I mean, when I started in the mid-'90s, I was living in the Haight-Ashbury area. So when it comes to brain cells,
secondhand. I mean, it was also you didn't inhale. I mean, come on, you didn't.
Yet I would get to the racetrack and I would just cut loose.
Right.
So it's you know what? When it comes to horse racing on the national scene, I don't really follow it that closely. I'm more immersed into what we do at Canterbury. We're an entertainment facility. We average about 8,000 people every single day. We do it differently than any track in the country. We're very proud of the way we do it, and we're very proud of our young fan base. And that's pretty much it for me from middle of May till middle of September.
Well, you watch the Twinkies a little bit, too. By the way, throwing that 79 crotch shot on me with the Pirates, tell Bert Blyleven when when you see him, because he wants to show off his ring and all that from 1979, that it still really hurts my feelings. And I tell Kent Colvey that. I've told Grant Jackson that. The whole Pittsburgh thing,
Hell yeah, man. I mean, Kent Colvey, as thin as one of the foul poles with the submarine approach to things. I mean, Jim Palmer, Scott McGregor, Mike Flanagan, Tippy Martinez, Denny Martinez, Eddie Murray. That was the squad. We were supposed to get it that year.
Those yellow pants were like a foul pole, weren't they, that they wore? They were like pajamas. Paul, love you, man. I'll see you this weekend. Looking forward to getting out there. We're worried about our team. We didn't talk much about the Ravens. You've been talking at length about the Vikings. These are not good times for the Ravens right now. Not a good week to be asking me about optimism on our side of the fence, man.
Well, can't wait to see you this weekend, and you're really going to enjoy U.S. Bank Stadium. It is a palatial purple paradise. It's a beautiful, well-lit stadium, hopefully one where the team wearing purple and gold, not the other shade of purple, is able to get the money and move to 5-2.
All right, man. If you can get me into Paisley Park while I'm there at any point, let me know, all right? I'm just trying to be a tourist.
I live about 7 minutes away from it, man.
Do they know who you are in that town? Do they know that you have over 141,000 followers, that maybe you'd have a special friend that would want to come in and just breathe the air, that Prince breathed at one point?
Hey, the only chance I have to get into Paisley Park is if they think I'm the other Paul Allen.
Oh, right. I forgot about him. When I think of Paul Allen, I only think about you. Hey, man, love you. PA on the mic. The way to find him out on Twitter, Canterbury Park, voice of the Vikings and K-Fan. We'll see you this weekend, Paul. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, appreciate you, Nestor. Bye.
Always. Paul Allen, PA on the mic, out in Minnesota, where we're going to get on a plane. We're going to go out. We're going to play football on Sunday. We're going to see how it goes. Certainly not a ton to recommend the Ravens the way they played last weekend. And certainly the Vikings, as Paul has pointed out, surging, feeling good about themselves in the NFC North, despite Case Keenum being their quarterback. And that was not the plan. Bridgewater practicing this week. We'll see how it goes. Big week for me. Friday's a big day for me. Dundalk High is erroneously putting me into the Hall of Fame. So this will be one of the bigger days of my career, my life. I don't know of any other Hall of Fame they're ever going to invite me in that I don't pay for a ticket. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, they let me in, but I usually have to buy a ticket for those Hall of Fames. This is the only one. I don't think they put a bust up. I don't think you get a bust in the mouth or anything like that either. It's Dundalk. But it's Friday. We're going to be at Costas eating crab cakes, crabs, beer, fun, music. Dundalk High alum, all invited. Everyone's invited to Costas on Friday night to celebrate. I'll be there with my wife. I think my son and his wife are going to come. And if you want to stop by, have some crabs, some crab cakes. I've never been in a Hall of Fame before. I don't know what to say or what to do or how to act. But so what I'm going to do is eat crabs and drink beer. That's what I'm going to do. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. I'm pretty easy to find. The buyatoyota.com audio vault is also there 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.